No, I don't like those. All right, so let's start. We're gonna start. Oops, with the date object. Date object. So you already know what an object is, right? An object has data and methods associated with it, just like in Ruby. You have, like we're building classes in Ruby, same thing. You have, you have these nice computer sciencey words like instantiate that creates a new object of the date class. So what type of variable is today? It's a date object, and it's got data, which is the date itself, and then all the methods of how to output that date in different formats and things. And they have lots of methods to get pieces of that date out. So let's play with some of these in the browser. So I wanted to show you can do JavaScript inside of PHP Storm, and it does the styling, and it's an IDE just like anything else. It does. I can actually debug right inside of PHP Storm. I can set breakpoints and all kinds of stuff. So we'll do that in a minute.
I wish I would have known that.
But it's pretty useful. Let's go. Let's see. Let's forget Firefox. In Chrome, let's see what we got. Yes.
Okay, so quick question. Can we actually load the file into PHP Storm?
Yeah, that's what I have here. I just put the file, and that's from the P drive. There's two files that she put on the P drive, dateobject1.htm and dateobject2, and they're just HTML files, and they happen to have some JavaScript in them. So you can put them right in there and edit them and rerun them and everything straight from PHP Storm.
Well, I like that better than using Notepad.
Yeah, I do too. I would prefer that, but use whatever she tells you to use. Don't.
She said we could use an IDE.
Okay. All right. So here's in Chrome, there are some tools that let you look at the data, and under the toolbar here, we go to Tools, and we go to Developer Tools. So these are just really cool tools that let you look at all of the various items in HTML. As I hover over them, it shows me what it is up here, so I can look and see exactly what it's at. I can drill down in the document structure, which is very important as you're looking at the DOM, because, for instance, these three P's in a row, what are they? Are they children of each other, or what? They're siblings because they're at the same level, right? So if I go inside of a P, and I've got something, I don't have anything else, so this is pretty basic website. So all of these P's are siblings of each other. If I had a P within a P, then it would be a child of the parent P. So you're able to see the DOM really clearly as it lays it out inside of this tool. It's really nice to see. Plus, we can look at the styles that are associated with this over here on the right. So that's really useful. But when we're doing JavaScript, it's nice to look at the actual code. So there's another tab here, Sources. And we want to look at the script that we're looking at, which happens to be, normally we would include these JavaScript files, but these are embedded in the HTML itself. That's just for ease of lecturing. But when you deploy these, you typically include an external JavaScript file like you include an external style sheet, right? Did she go over that? So this is just for demonstration purposes, really. But you can see the script right in here, and we can actually debug inside of Chrome directly as well. I can set a breakpoint on line 20 just by clicking on the 20, and then I can reload the page, and it runs the code up to that point. So this is where I've stopped. It hasn't executed that line yet, and when I step over that line, client state will actually have something in it. Right now, if I hover over it, it says undefined, right? So if I step over that, and here's the tools for just resume or step over, step into, step out of, standard things like you have in Visual Studio. I want to step over this, and it executes that line. Now client state has a data in it, and you can see it says Wednesday, April 10th, 2013. So because the date, this is a date function, we didn't have any parameters to it, and the date without any parameters returns what, do you think? But what time, what date do you think it returns? Now, right? It's whatever time I called it right now, that's going to be the date object. So in this case, my date is, in fact, 11:40. We got to that point. According to whose clock? The computer's clock. So if this was running on a website, whose time would this be? No. It's the client's clock. It's the web browser's clock. It's not the server's clock. So you got to be really careful going back and forth with that if you're dealing with date and time. It can be very confusing. You've got to deal with this is running on the client, so it only knows about the client. It can't know what the server has on it. All right?
You make it specified by putting client's date.
No, this is just a variable name. I can call it Dave if I want. Is that what I'm saying? Is that what I'm? The client has nothing to do with it. She named it, or whoever wrote this, clients to make sure you understood that it's the computer's date.
If it was just date, it would be client side.
Right. Exactly right. So we can do this. Yeah. Question. Go ahead.
Yeah, is there any way to make the date so that it's not client dependent, so that it can respond to, events that you've set up on your server side?
Yeah, you can, but you have to. The server side has to pass that information to the browser. So as it's creating the page and rendering the page, say you do it in PHP, you could get the server time on the PHP, pass that through in the JavaScript as a variable, and then it could be server time. That people do that sometimes. But you're actually writing out the date object to the client. Right. Right. Who knows what time zone they're in and things like that. There's constant battle there. So to illustrate the point Desiree had, I can go to the console. The console is like in Ruby. Everybody here's had Ruby, right? If not, you shouldn't be in the class, I'm thinking. So just like in Ruby, we have the IRB, the immediate Ruby. And this is a console that runs in the context of the page that I've loaded. So it has all that data. If I look at client's date, that was a variable that just got executed because I stepped over that line. So it's now available. If I just hit return, that has the data filled into it. Okay, that is the date object itself. Client's date is a date object. Even though when I print it out, it looks like a string, it actually has properties and methods and things that I can run, or functions. I'm in JavaScript, I've got to call them functions, on that object. Okay, any questions on that? Does that make sense? So I could say Dave equals date. And now Dave is an object that has the current date at the time I executed that line of code. So Dave is just a variable, but it happens to be a date object. All right? Everybody got that? So the fact that it said client was just to make sure you understood it's the computer's date, not the server's date. All right, so we can step over that, and there are other methods associated with the client, with the date object, and I can just type things like get year is a method. Oop, date, it's not date, it's Dave dot, and I can say get, and year, I believe, is what I got. Nope. I'm spelling it wrong or something here. Let's see, get. Let's go back to our sources and look. She has some down here. Yeah. I thought I was spelling it right. Well, let's go back and look. client information dot get, nope, not information, client date dot client's date, oh my gosh, dot get year, there it is. I don't know why. All right, so the year that I get back is 113. Why is that? That's weird. Let's do a get month. Yeah, this is all based on the month. So let's start with this. Go back to the year in a minute. The month is, we're in April, but it starts at 0, right? Because we're programmers, we're off by 1 all the time. Yeah, go ahead.
I think I know why it's giving you the 113. Because when you, I think it still have the same issue of Y2K, is that it's trying to swap over from 1999 to 2000. Can't use that, so it rolls back over to 1, and that's 13 on the end system.
Yeah, JavaScript does have a 2000K, a 2K, Y2K problem, definitely. So get month, we start, it's April, that's the 4th month in the year, but why does it return to 3? Because it starts at 0, and that's so that you can index arrays easier. But it's a constant battle when you're writing JavaScript code to remember that, to add 1 to it or subtract 1 to it or whatever like that. It's really a pain. Yeah. Yeah, there's if I just type client state dot toString, that's the same thing as just typing it by itself or printing it by itself. Yeah, there's a toDate string too. Yeah, you have to actually date. That gives you a different representation of it.
Well, I think the 2-day string works out better.
Yeah. Makes more sense.
That's not a date object, though. Once I go to get year, what is the value of get year? It's a number. It's a number. So, and that's all based on the epoch. You guys know what the epoch is. If you've had my PHP class, you should know that. It's 1970. It's January 1st, midnight, the New Year, midnight on 1970. And that's where most languages and computers, that's how they get their date. So a date before that, which she has in here as an example, goes negative, right? So a year behind that. So let's step through that some more. Let's play with this some more. So we've got a formatted date. This is a toDate string. And you see that it prints it out slightly differently than just printing it out the entire object. And you can actually control how this looks. There's different ways to print that string. And for that, you can Google it. So here's an Independence Day. This is this many seconds in the negative, or milliseconds in the negative. So you can pass milliseconds into this, and it's all based on the epoch. So if I do a new date of 0, let's do that in the console. If I say epoch, I got to get my languages right here. Date, and I pass it as 0, then, no. There we go. All right, so epoch was on a Wednesday, December 31st, 1969. And in this case, it took into account that we're on the Pacific time. So we're actually New Year's Eve, 8 hours before the end of the epoch, okay? So it takes that into account because my client's computer is on Pacific Daylight Time or Standard Time. Yeah, they did. All right. So we can just keep stepping over this. That's our reference. Oh, this is a Independence Day. And so we created that date by knowing that it was negative 61, big long number, milliseconds old.
How would you
what they did was they created a date object in a different way by passing in July 4th, 1776. And a date object in reality is just a number. Just like in PHP, it's the number of milliseconds. So if I were to print this out, if I said epoch, let's see, where's my client state? All right, so this is the number of milliseconds that client state is, which was today. So you can see that. Right, that is what's actually stored in the date object. This is what it really looks like. So if I just print it out, though, it tries to convert that into a readable, human-readable text. But this is just the number. And so you can do date calculations on this by adding and subtracting date objects to determine how many days or seconds were between two date objects. So, because it's just a number. Right? And so the negative of that would be something else. So if I took that and I set a new date of, and I passed in the negative of this, then I get 1926. Okay, so that's the mirror opposite from epoch of today in the past. Does that make sense? Kind of weird concept there. All right. Isn't that fun? But I like the console because you can just play around with this stuff, and it actually does some IntelliSense and knows that client state is a date object. And I can do like get full year. Here you go. This is their Y2K fix. Get full year gives me 2013. So you're right that the get year returns the non-Y2K compliant one. It rolled over and went to 113, which is wrong.
What's interesting, though, is that when was Ruby made? Was it before 2000?
Yes.
It doesn't have that problem.
It was built in like 1992, and at that, well, I know, and JavaScript was built late as well.
Microsoft spent a ton of money making sure they updated everything.
Well, Microsoft didn't create JavaScript, though.
That's why it's not updated.
No, Oracle. No, that's Java, right? JavaScript was built. Anybody know who wrote it? I did. Yeah, that's me. I wrote it. Yeah. It was. Anybody remember who Netscape was? Netscape wrote JavaScript. That was their original project that they added to their browser way back in the mid-90s, 1990s. So defunct. The company's gone. They open sourced everything, and that's what Mozilla is, or Firefox. And they open sourced the actual JavaScript. The original one was called ECMAScript. So if you look up that's the open source version of JavaScript. So anyway, there's some nice trivia for you. Anyway, let's go back to our date object. I don't want to get too far behind. So these are some of the methods that you can call. We can get the month, the date, the year, the full year, the day. And these are all methods on the date object. So they operate on the prior object here, right? So whatever's before the dot, this method gets applied to that. That's the object-oriented programming, right? So it's calling this method on the Independence Day object, which is different than another object. So each object that I create from the date is a separate independent object. They're all separate. All right, so get date, there's a ton of these methods. Get seconds, get milliseconds. So we can do that one. That's fun. So if I say client state dot get milliseconds. Now, if I don't put the parentheses on it, what happens? It returns the function, and this is what you're going to get into. Maybe we'll get to it tomorrow, called anonymous functions. This is the definition of the function itself, to actually call the function, I have to tell JavaScript that I want to call it by adding the parentheses and optionally maybe passing some parameters in those parentheses. So that actually calls the method. So that's the number of milliseconds at the time that I captured that date. So whenever client state was captured, that was the number of milliseconds. Because that rolls over, you only have 1,000 milliseconds in a second, right? So it goes up to 1,000, rolls back over to 0. So that's going to be a number between 0 and 1,000 almost. Or 0 and 999.
When you don't use the parentheses function like that,
Yep.
is it returning what the object is that you are calling?
It's returning the definition of the function is what it is, rather than calling the function itself. And that becomes important because I can actually, this is getting ahead of ourselves, I can say my millisecs, let's see if I can actually get this to work. Get milliseconds. And I can call now client state I know. That's the point. I might not be able to do this with built-in stuff. Yeah. I can't do it. But anyway, you can pass these things around like variables, methods around like variables. That's the key to jQuery and the key to event handlers that you're going to be writing next week. So anyway, outside the scope of today.
You teach those next week too?
Yeah, no. All right, so here's Thanksgiving, and this is how they created a date in the past. So let's just take this. Well, I'll just step over it. I'll get to this point. Set a breakpoint here, say go, and it's executed all those lines. Now Thanksgiving has a date, and it's set to Wednesday, December 4th, the year 1619. All right, so the way that did that, instead of just calling date by itself, which captured now, whenever I call it, I'm telling it I want it the year, month, and day. I can pass in a year, month, and day, and now it told me now that Thanksgiving was on a Wednesday. Right? Thanksgiving was always wrong, right? So that was a long time ago. Well, why does it say Wednesday? Remember, we're Pacific time. We're 8 hours behind what that really is. So if I really wanted to find Thursday, I'd have to add 8 hours to this. But that's converting between time zones is a whole week's class by itself. No, it's set on the third Wednesday or the fourth Thursday after the third Wednesday. It's a real complicated thing. I don't even know. That's a Google thing. You go look that up. Yes, it would. Yeah, so we could do that. We could go put this in our console. Don't you just love this console? And change this. And not only can I pass the year, month, and day, I can pass hours, minutes, seconds, milliseconds. If I don't pass those are defaulted to 0. So I can pass 8 hours into that day. Oh, come on, you got to be kidding me. That's right. That's right. No, you don't need a space. Spaces are optional. But I'll put one in. But it is optional. Yeah, it would be real funny. I think you must have to. Yeah, there are some things that are not optional. I don't think that's the case, though. Yep. That was it. So I can take all these off again. The var was messing it up. So that is 8. See, to actually get Thursday, I'm going to have to subtract 8 hours. I don't know if I can do this. Let's try it.
Tuesday.
So maybe,
You'll have to add 8 hours.
Well, I did add 8 hours.
Subtract it.
I have to make it the 5th.
Minus 16.
There we go, Thursday at midnight. So anyway, whatever.
Was it in December?
It was probably not in December. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? All right, let's move on from there. So we can step over some more of these. These are just creating. What they're doing is letting you create a nice January by having an array of these months, and this is really common in JavaScript. And we get the month, and we can let's see what it'll do. Let's print it out. It prints out the 12/5/16/19, and then December 5th, 16, and on Thursday. So it found December by calling the get month and using that in the array of months to index it to get the fact that it was December.
So JavaScript does not have a full length plus one edited day.
Doesn't have a what?
Have a full length form of
Not that I remember, no.
January without actually creating variables.
Yeah, I don't remember if there is, as a matter of fact. Same with days. I don't remember. It's good. That's a Google question. All right, so we're at the end of our script, and if I just continue on, the page finishes loading, and this is all that came. You guys know all about the document.write, correct?
Yes.
That prints out to the document on the screen. So I wanted to get to the idea, let's edit this file and add an alert in here. Say you were debugging and you didn't know about this debugger. This is how we used to have to debug in the past. We would call an alert, and we might print out client's date. Right? So when I reload this page, the first thing that pops up, if I don't have my breakpoint on, oh, I didn't reload my page.
You haven't taken
It's not clear. It's not far right.
Oh, no?
No, it's where the step over. Is that?
All right, we'll take care of that. Am I using the problem is I'm not debugging this one, right? You guys got to be careful. I do this all the time. Where is this file? This is a file now in my project. This is the one on the desktop. So you got to make sure you're debugging the right one. So let's load this guy. I did that on purpose to show you. So this instantly pops up with a JavaScript alert, and you have to hit OK, and then it runs the rest of the program. So that's how we used to have to debug stuff in the past, was by having a bunch of these alerts. And they get really annoying if you put an alert inside of a while loop, because you got to go click, 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 click. And that used to be the only way we could see the data and see the progression of our JavaScript code. But there's a better way to do that. Instead of alert, if we say console.log, that will print out whatever string we have in here to the console. And where's our console? Well, it's in our developer tool, right? So I open up our developer tool, we look at our console, we reload our page, and it prints it out exactly what I wanted here. And it tells me where that was, right? I can click and show right into there. That's the console.log that I had. Isn't that sweet? I don't like alerts. Use them if you want. Use console.log if you want. I like this a lot because I can even do calculations in here, all kinds of fun stuff.
Does it have conditional breakpoints?
No, it doesn't have conditional breakpoints.
Visual Studio does.
Yes, I know. I know. But it does have watches. I can watch variables. I can add a watch here, like client's date, and see what that is. That it prints out a string representation of that. It's actually showing you the toString method of this object. That's what's happening there. Yeah, the code school. Yeah, well, I should, huh? So those that don't know that, code school, was it code school? I don't remember where it was. All right, go here. Let's look at my class.
Such a good teacher is getting more popular.
Go to my
So
class.
bad he's getting hecklers.
You want the Google Web Tools, right?
Code
Oh, no,
school.
those are the dev tools.
You gotta be kidding me. Stop! All right, so if you go to discover-devtools.codeschool.com, you can walk through a course that's free on how to utilize these Chrome dev tools, which are really powerful, especially with JavaScript. And it also talks about the DOM, which gives you a good overview of the DOM, which is really good. Some advanced DOM, debugging JavaScript. It's really useful to go through that. So I highly recommend that you do that.
I will say that's just because that's not the guy.
That's not the guy. No, it's not the guy. Right. But this is free because Google sponsored it. These Code School are typically not. But if you go look at these, it shows you a little video first, and then it lets you use directly in the Chrome. You manipulate stuff, and it knows that you did that. It keeps track of your button clicks and stuff, and it's pretty nice. So, good thought. So go there, do that. All right, how much time we got? Let's see where I was in the PowerPoint. I didn't get very far, did I?
No.
It's okay, we were a couple of days ahead.
Okay, yeah. Well, we got to the string object, so we kind of went through all of this. So we can have string is just an object, same as a date object or a number. Everything is an object, and because of that, it has methods or functions that I can operate on those, right? So a string, I can do stringy stuff with it. It's got methods associated with that object. So let's play with that in the console a little bit. Stringy stuff, right? So if I have a variable called Dave, and I say Dave is cool, that's a string. And if I just type Dave, it's going to print out the representation of that. But there are other methods that I can do as well. Lots of methods. I can say the length, for instance. What is the length of my string? Well, it's 12. And it counts up the number of characters for you. Counts because a space is a character, just like doing count or size in Ruby, or I don't know what C# has, string length, maybe? Dot length, yeah, same thing. So there are methods in JavaScript I can execute on the string as well. There's a Dave dot to uppercase. And why did it print out the function instead of execute it?
Because it's a method.
Right, I didn't put my parentheses around it. So that tells it to execute the method rather than just bring it back. Executes it, upcases every character in my string.
Does it actually change the string?
No. So if I want to change the string, what would I have to do? I'd have to assign it back into itself.
Is there a bank?
No, there's not. Did I spell it wrong or something? Oh, see, I told you I assigned the function to my Dave variable.
The first one.
Yeah, so I screwed it up. So I got to get my Dave back here. All right. There we go. So now Dave has been modified and written over the top of each other. So now Dave has the new value. So there's no in-place modification. You have to assign it back to itself if you want to do that. No nice Ruby shortcuts for that. All right, so strings. You can do string lookups. You can do regular expressions on strings. You guys all should know regular expressions by now, right? Yeah, I thought so. So before we run out of time today, I want to show you that in PHP Storm, we can also debug this straight inside of here by using the live edit features. And if I turn on live edit for this file, and I run it inside of my Chrome here, let's see if I can get it to work. It can be a little touchy. For those in my mobile class or PHP, this was problematic.
You didn't know about that PHP. You did it just.
Oh, just in my mobile class. Oh, okay. So to get it to work, you have to install this JetBrains IDE support tool into Chrome, and so you do that by looking at your tools, extensions, and you can search for that. Mine is already installed here, JetBrains IDE support, and you can get more extensions. So if you look for JetBrains IDE support and install it, mine's already installed. There'll be a button here to install it. Then it allows, what happens in the background is that Chrome, through this extension, is actually acting like a little web server. And so when you make changes here, it sends data to the browser through this plugin to make the changes on the object, on the file itself. So the problem, I think, is that my settings are messed up. Let's see. The proxy settings, I've had trouble with this. Somehow, why is it getting reset? You have to bypass proxy server for local addresses here.
Oh, when you're doing it at school?
Yes. That's just at school. You don't use a proxy at unless you set your own up, right? So now let's look at it again. See, I'm not going to get it to work, am I?
You got it working a second ago. Let's check.
Yeah, it's not turning on. I did.
There it goes.
There it goes. Okay, good. So the idea with this is I can actually change stuff here and have it show up automatically, and it actually redisplays the HTML right here. Isn't that cool? I know. I spelled everything wrong. Chrome. What the heck? Come on. See, Chrome.
Need some typing lessons.
Chrome. There we go.
There we go.
All right, so we can do that, but since I have live editing installed, I can also debug this file since it has JavaScript in it. I can put a breakpoint in here. Let's put it after this, and say debug my HTML file, which is weird. Isn't that weird? So it's going to run the file over here. It displayed what it could up to this point, testing Chrome, and now it's sitting here at a breakpoint and I can look at some of this data. So if I hover over my client's date, it shows me that date object that we just played with, right? And I can have watches and everything inside of here, just like before, and I can step over code one at a time, and I can see the code come up on the side here. Isn't that cool?
That's awesome. You can do conditionals in there, can't you?
They don't have a conditional for this, though. At least I haven't seen one. They might. Nope. All right, isn't that fun? Fun stuff. All right, that's enough for today. I get to teach you again tomorrow, so we'll go through strings and whatever else is on here. Methods. String object methods, okay. All right, that's done.